People often say that the Irish built Manhattan. Well, today we're making a little cocktail that I like to call the Irish built Manhattan. Let me show you how to make it. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Matt, I'm the Whiskey Nerd, and like I said, this week I'm making a nice little cocktail I like to call the Irish built Manhattan, because this is kind of like a Manhattan cocktail with a bit of an Irish twist, because I got the idea for making this cocktail when I reviewed this whiskey right here. This is the Keeper's Heart Irish and American whiskey. There'll be a link to the review of that whiskey up there. There'll be a link down in the description below, which you can check out afterwards, but it is a very nice little whiskey that's a blend of Irish whiskies and American rye whiskies together, and I figured I'd make a nice little kind of a variation on a Manhattan cocktail. Now, if you were to make a Manhattan cocktail with a classic rye whiskey, people would normally say to use like a sweet vermouth here. But if you're using a lighter Irish whiskey, me personally, I think the sweet vermouth, because it's a bit stronger, the spicy notes are a bit more kind of full flavored, those kind of herbal botanical notes are a bit more full flavored. I like to go in here with a bianco vermouth. It's not a fully dry whiskey, dry vermouth. It's not a fully like sweet vermouth. It's somewhere in between, made with a white wine, so it has like that lighter note, and for me I think it's quite nice, especially when you're dealing with lighter whiskies. And because this whiskey is a blend of almost 50-50 Irish whiskey and rye whiskey, I think it works well together to split the difference. So instead of going in with 2 ounces of my rye whiskey and 1 ounce of my sweet vermouth, I'm going to go in with 2 ounces of my Irish and American and half an ounce each of my 2 different rye whiskies. I will also be using a little bit of bitters. I'll be using 1 dash of Angostura and 1 dash of orange bitters, and at the end garnishing it off with that classic maraschino cherry. But that's enough time talking about the cocktail. It's time we make it. It is going to be a stir drink, so we're going to get our mixing glass and we're going to pop a nice rock of ice into there before we measure out our ingredients. Starting off with our whiskey, like I said, we're going to go in with 2 ounces or 60 ml of our Keeper's Heart Irish and American, which, like I said, is a blend of like those 2 whiskeys, so you get a bit of that Irish sweet, like lighter notes backed up by that heavier, almost spicy, botanical rye whiskey. So I'm going to be splitting my difference, like I said, with my vermouth. I'm going to go in with 15 ml or half an ounce of my Bianco vermouth, which is a little bit lighter but still got those classic kind of botanical notes that you'd expect in a vermouth. And then I'm going to go in with half an ounce of my sweet red vermouth. These are both from Martini. You can use whatever vermouths you like. For me, this is just the ones I always like using. Just for me, it's the classic little vermouth. They're the ones I like, but if you have your own personal favorite, you can of course use your own personal favorite vermouth. So those 3 ingredients, and I'm going to go in with 1 dash each of my Angostura and my orange bitters. For me, this is like your salt and your pepper. They kind of go well in every cocktail you might want to make, and they just give you a nice kind of rounded out extra note to your cocktail. So for me, I always like using a little bit of Angostura and a little bit of orange bitters. Now I'm going to stir it away for about 30-35 seconds to make sure this is really nice and cold. Okay, I think that is nicely chilled now, so I'm going to get ready to strain it out. I've got a very nice chilled Nick and Nora glass here, so I'm going to pop my strainer up top just to catch that big rock of ice and pour it away just like that. Very nice. And then, like I said, for a garnish, I'm going to be going in with a classic Luxardo maraschino cherry, because for me, that little bit of like extra sweetness from the marasca syrup in there with that cherry just gives you a very classic look, but also gives a little bit of an extra flavor to the cocktail. So drop that in just there to the bottom. And that right there is what I think is a very good looking little cocktail that I like to call the Irish built Manhattan. Now real quick, before I taste this cocktail, if you're new here, scroll down, hit that thumbs up button, hit that subscribe button. I put out whiskey reviews like the review on that Keeper's Heart Irish and American every Wednesday, and I put out cocktail recipes like this featuring whiskey every Friday. So if you want to see more like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and while you're down there, leave me a note in the comments and say if there's any cocktails you think I should make in future. But for now, let's taste this one. Cheers. I mean, you can't go wrong with the classic kind of Manhattan formula. Like, it's pretty simple. Like, it's just whiskey, a bit of vermouth, the bitters, maybe a little bit of that sweetness from that maraschino cherry coming through, but it really does work well. Like, the flavors are just classic for a reason, and I'm kind of glad I didn't go in with all of that sweet vermouth, because it does have a pretty strong impact here, but because I split the difference between the two, I got, I think, a nicer kind of balance of flavors in here. Yeah, you still get all those kind of botanical notes. You still get all those like aromatized wine notes you'd expect in the vermouth, but you can still taste the whiskey behind it. You can still get that kind of spicy backbone of the whiskey behind the flavors without it being kind of washed out or being one-dimensional. All you can taste is the vermouth. So I think for me, in this whiskey especially, like when you're dealing with a cocktail as simple as this, when there's only like 2 ingredients or 3 ingredients on the table, one change can make a huge difference. So I think for me, with this whiskey, definitely splitting the difference makes a massive difference and makes a much more rounded out cocktail. So I'm going to keep on enjoying it, and I will see you next time. Sláinte.